What I'm going to talk about today is about how mums brainwash kids against their dads, and half of them don't even realise they're doing it. Imagine for a second that I told you I could teach you how to brainwash somebody. Most people immediately think of cult leaders, dictators, hostage situations, secret CIA experiments. But here's the uncomfortable truth. You don't need a cult. You don't need a bunker. You don't need mind control. All you need is repetition, emotion, and time. In fact, the same psychological principles used to build discipline, habits, and belief systems can also be used to make a child reject a parent. And that's where family court enters the chat. Because when people hear the phrase parental alienation, they often imagine some evil mastermind sitting in a dark room plotting the destruction of the father-child relationship. Most of the time, it's far more ordinary, which makes it far more dangerous. Let's break it down. There's a behavioural expert recently described what he called the FEAR model, F-E-A-R. Focus for F, emotion, agitation, repetition. He was talking about how to change your own behaviour, how to build discipline, how to train your own brain. But here's the thing. Those same principles work on children, and children are far more vulnerable because they don't have the life experience to challenge what they're hearing. Let's start with F, focus. If you want somebody thinking about something constantly, you don't need to scream. You just need to keep bringing it up. Dad's late again. Dad's not called again. He said he was going to do that. He hasn't done that again, has he? Dad's always been selfish, that bloke. He's always been out of order. Dad doesn't understand you, doesn't understand how hard you try, doesn't love you, doesn't care. Every conversation somehow circles back to dad. The child starts paying attention, not because they choose to, but because their brain was trained to. The focus becomes dad. The focus becomes conflict. The focus becomes blame. Now we move to E, emotion. This is where the real magic happens. And I mean real magic. Because human beings don't remember facts. They remember feelings. A customer will forget what you said, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. A child comes home from school, sits on the phone, speaks to his dad or her dad, notices that the mum gets a little bit resentful, goes a bit cold on her or him. Same child comes home from seeing dad. Mum's crying. Mum's stressed. Mum says she can't sleep. The child doesn't understand adult conflict, but realizes when dad appears, mum suffers. That emotional connection starts forming, not logically, emotionally. And emotion always beats logic, every single. Then comes A, keeping the emotional wound open, never letting the dust settle, never allowing the child to simply enjoy having two parents. The child becomes the therapist, the confidant, the messenger, the spy, the what did dad say? Who's he seeing? Did he mention court? The child is carrying responsibilities they never were designed to carry. And eventually something happens. The child starts believing they're choosing a side, when in reality they've been pushed towards one. Then we get to the most powerful weapon of all, the repetition. Because brainwashing isn't one dramatic conversation. It's 10,000 tiny ones. It's not, your dad is terrible. It's, your dad forgot. Your dad's late. Your dad doesn't understand. Your dad upset me. Your dad doesn't care. Again and again and again. Until one day, the child can't even remember where the belief come from. It simply feels true. That's the frightening part. People think manipulation requires intelligence. It doesn't. It requires consistency. A person can genuinely believe they're protecting the child while slowly poisoning the child's relationship with the other parent. That's why these cases are so complicated. The child genuinely believes that the child genuinely believes what they're saying. The belief has been rehearsed so many times, it feels like their own. And before anybody starts foaming at the mouth in the comments, yes, fathers can do this too. Absolutely they can. This is not a male issue. This is not a female issue. This is a human issue. This is what happens when bitterness becomes more important than the child. This is what happens when winning becomes more important than parenting. And this is what happens when adults recruit children into wars they never asked to fight. The tragedy is that the children don't usually realize what's happened until years later, sometimes decades later. Sometimes when they finally gain enough life experience to ask one terrifying question. Wait 1 minute. What if the story I was told wasn't the whole story? And by then, the damage can be enormous, because the easiest person in the world to manipulate is not an adult. It's a child who loves and trusts you. And that's exactly why every parent has a responsibility to be careful with the stories they tell. Because one day, those stories become the child's reality. And sometimes they become their prison.